Hello, vinyl community. I've seen a great thread going around on YouTube started by The Long Cut featuring the 10 albums that I listen to the most. It's been great checking out a lot of feeds that I wasn't familiar with before and seeing what they pick and chose. For me, I think like I've read or heard on a couple other channels, it's hard to consider like all time what are the albums I've listened to the most. So I just picked for me around the last 3 or 4 years what I think are the ones I continue to go back to the most. And I think it's an interesting topic. It's kind of like one of my favorite movie pods is the rewatchables. And it's like there's something, there's different between like sometimes great and then re-listenable. I tend to like heavier albums as far as when I consider the all-time great records. But, something like whatever, Nebraska is not something I want to put on, 3 times a day. So it's interesting what informs, how often you play records. But enough of that, I'm going to get started. First one I'm going to do is Van Morrison, Wavelength. This one's from the end of Van's 70s impossible run of great records. He was putting out about a record a year. The 70s have far and away my most albums on my favorites, all-time greats, whatever list you would want to say. And for me, I go back and forth sometimes, but I think Van won the decade. So many great releases. And Wavelength, I think, is a great example of, replayability. I would definitely not have it as my greatest, but it is so listenable. It really is like, I think there was some intent for it to be radio friendly. And I love listening to it. There's a live clip on YouTube from a ballroom show in '78. Of him doing the title track, Wavelength, that is my favorite live clip on YouTube, and that is saying a whole lot. So start out with Van the Man with Wavelength. On the next one, St. Cloud by Waxahatchee. Whew! This is a bad rascal. It's definitely one of my favorite, 4 or 5 records of the last 5 to 10 years. It's really astounding to me. I really feel its personalness and the songwriting, and then that combined with the singer's fascinating way of getting across the songs and the way she sings them. I just love it. I read a cool article with Waxahatchee, Katie Crutchfield, about the influence that Car Wheels on a Gravel Road had on it. I think I've got that, yeah, right there. And I could see that upon re-listens, and I put it on all the time. I love that record. The next one, I almost wasn't sure if I wanted to include this, but I had to be honest with myself and be like, it would be disingenuous if this wasn't on here. Because I would say over the last, if I'm talking 3 or 4 years, this is the most listened to thing. Not necessarily on vinyl, that's the catch, but Inside by Bo Burnham. In the middle of COVID, without any fanfare or promotion, comedian Bo Burnham dropped a video on Netflix called Inside that he made entirely on his own in a small little room on his property. And I was absolutely floored by it. One of the 3 or 4 times I had been most waylaid by a piece of art, I just found it to be incredible. It is nothing but a series of musical numbers of songs, and it's a meta commentary on kind of modern living and the nature of isolation and the internet, and it just was very moving and profound for me, and I have listened to those songs like on my Spotify a billion times. and it was a no-brainer to get the vinyl, and they did a good job with the packaging, and I listened to it often that way, so I had to have Bo Burnham's Inside on it. All right, the next one, Nick Lowe, Dig My Mood. Dig My Mood. This might be my favorite mood album. Man, it is like a perfect hot cup of coffee on a cold winter morning. It's just really, really smooth. Really well written songs, really well played, as you come to expect from Nick Lowe. Just a real fireside conversational energy to it, and it is just beautiful. It has one of my all-time favorite covers that closes out the record, Cold Gray Light of Dawn, which has, it caught me off guard, but it might be my all-time line in a song, which is I Turn Blue in the Cold Gray Light of Dawn. Come on, man. That's just incredible. I always have thanks to my older brother Brian for turning me onto that record. Gosh, when it's like it's got to be that, nothing else comes close and nothing else will do. All right, the next one, I couldn't have a list like this if I didn't have my man on it. That is Bob Dylan, Modern Times. The hat I have on is from the Jokermen podcast, and they celebrate Bob Dylan's post-60s Zenith catalog, really taking deep dives and looks into it. And I'm one of those people, and I know this can seem blasphemous, and I don't underestimate being an all-the-way full catalog Bob guy, of the impact that 60s run had, especially, the try to bring it all back home, Highway 61 and Blonde on Blonde. But I really am one of those people that fully sit in and feel convinced that you can take Time Out of Mind, Love and Theft, and Modern Times, and it's like a brother. It stands right beside that 3-album release. And the one of those three I return to the most is Modern Times. To me, it's the most listenable. It's the one that calls out to me most to be played often. Just love the record. Spirit on the Water would probably be on any, if I had to just pick 10 Bob songs for a mix or whatever. And love this record, Bob Dylan, Modern Times. Moving on along. Going to get a little hip and indie here. Zephaniah Ohora, or I'm not sure how it's pronounced. I'm a country music guy on my channel, Hillbilly Pillars. And I got turned on to this by some of the blog sites that I read, this artist out of New York City. And this album is so great. I read a little bit of criticism, and basically what the complaints were about the record was it sounds too much like prime late 70s Merle Haggard and the Strangers. Okay, I understand maybe a little belly aching about mimicking, but if the problem is that you sound too much like Serving 190 Proof or Big City or Back to the Barrooms, that's not a problem for this guy. The songs are super well written. The production is really thoughtful. The playing is tasteful. And there's a real energy of him trying to be communal, trying to really almost an impossible challenge these days of making a music that is trying to be welcoming and inclusive. It's a hard row to hoe, and I think he does it expertly. I can't suggest this album enough. If you want to I want to check out some new country, this one, so great. All right, next one. I actually have my wife to credit for this one. She stays up more on top of the modern pop stuff. Also, shout out to her. She led a popular local band here in Tallahassee for 20 years. But is this guy who's got his hands on pretty much half of the hit records you'll hear today, Jack Antonoff and his band Bleachers, Strange Desire. It's cool stuff, man. It's just cool stuff. It has a big romantic rock sound. To me, it doesn't sound like it's trying to be patronizing. And you always get down to the bread and butter, and it's just great songs. Wild Heart, I Want to Get Better, Reckless Love, what do the kids say? Bangers. This record has bangers, and it's one that gets my volume knob turned up. And the guy obviously knows what he's doing production-wise. He puts his stamp on something and it'll sell a billion records, and he's leaned into that love and heart on his own records, and you can hear it, man. It's fantastic. So I got Bleachers, Strange Desire. Moving on. This one's really kind of coming out of left field. This is Marty Robbins in the Wild West Part 1. I am an absolute sucker for all of Marty Robbins' Western-themed music. I found through looking online that the incomparable Bear family, who puts together full catalogs of old country artists and releases them in these CD box sets that are just always, if you want everything that artist ever did in the best way possible, it's almost always Bear family is the way to go. But they did this vinyl set where they assimilated nearly all of Marty's Western recordings. And, you know, in country music, if they found something that worked, they would keep going back to the well, even if it was well after it was what's still popular. And you can go to my channel and hear my bloviating about gunfighter ballads and trail songs, which for me is the most underrated album in all genres. It should be absolutely, to me, without argue, mentioned right there alongside all the ones that immediately get listed, like the Beatles records and the 60s Bob and Pet Sounds and all that. I think it is on par with that. The side openers for that record for gunfighter ballads are Big Iron and El Paso, both written by Marty Robbins. It's a mean record. But this one is the first album in the set done by Bear Family, and they did a real good job of curating an interesting list of the way they put the songs together. And the thing I love most about it is on side 1, you have the song of El Paso, which almost everyone's familiar with. And if you want an incredible read and to let you know everything you need to know about El Paso, Bob Dylan's Philosophy of Modern Song, his part on that, it's as superlative as he gets. And, you know, that's Bob. You can take it or leave it sometimes, but sometimes when he's really leaning in and talking about a song, he's not messing around, and he'll tell you El Paso is one of the great recordings of all time. But he followed up and wrote 2 more songs following the story of the young man who got gunned down for his love in El Paso. And the last one is called El Paso City, and it's real meta. It's like if he was... it's Marty Robbins as himself flying over the city, wondering if he's the reincarnated version of the character from the song. It's kind of weird, but also kind of awesome. And they put all those 3 together, and then just everything on here is great. And it's like I feel untouchable when I put on Marty's Western stuff. I just like, yeah, I am in a great place. So that is Marty Robbins in the Wild West Part 1. All right. Moving on. Lucinda. Her eponymous self-titled album. I love it. And I think this is like a perfect example of re-listenable versus all-time great. I'm a Car Wheels guy. I can't imagine that it wouldn't ever make my top 10. But I don't know, maybe I just savor that one and want to save it for special occasions, but I don't feel that way with this one. I put this on anytime. I'm like, I need some Lucinda in my life. Title track, I Just Wanted to See You So Bad. I mean, it just hits. The Night's Too Long, Passionate Kisses, which folks know got covered and put her on the map, and hopefully made her a lot of money because she deserved it with that great song. Change the Locks, which Tom Petty did, and just great song after great song after great song. It's a mood. I love the song Crescent City. He's talking about going to New Orleans, and there's a line where another singer comes in and she says that my brothers know where the best bars are. I love it. I love Lucinda Williams, and I love this record. And let me see. All right, my last one, Merle. Merle. This is from Austin City Limits. I believe it was 1985 that this was. I mean, you know, it's like all the country greats. He was on Austin City Limits about, you know, 500 times. Actually, Merle not as often as like Willie or whatever. But yeah, this was 1985, and it is peak Merle, and the band's flawless, and his singing is the same. And the suite of songs is just awesome. He's got a self-referential funny song called Okie from Muskogee's Coming Home that starts it out. But then he does a lot of Texas tribute songs. He's a Bob Wills lover. He does Texas, Take Me Back to Tulsa, Ida Red. So it just rolls and rolls and rolls. And when I want to listen to Merle and feel so good, feeling so sad, this is the one I go to the most. So, yeah, that's it. I want to thank The Long Cut for starting this trend, and for everybody else who shared all their records. It's a lot of good stuff that I got to listen to. Thank you.